My name is Colton Ward. I'm 29 years old, living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I work as a manager at Home Depot, a stable job where I enjoy the sense of control that comes from helping customers with their projects, a feeling I've slowly realized I'm losing in my own home. I've been married to Daisy for 3 years. She's 27, a woman as radiant as summer sunshine who runs a small nail salon. When we first married, everything was perfect. We'd spend evenings on the couch, watching cheesy romantic movies, and she'd rest her head on my shoulder, whispering about her dreams. I believed we'd always be like that. But over the past 3 months, things have changed. Daisy is no longer the cheerful woman who'd hold my hand out of the blue. She has become distant, as if an invisible wall has gone up between us. Every time I tried to hold her, she'd subtly pull away, saying she was exhausted from work. At first, I believed her. I cooked dinner when she came home late and quietly did the laundry so she could rest. But deep down, a cold breeze was slipping through a cracked door. Daisy started developing strange habits. She began wearing tight, alluring dresses and spritzing on expensive perfume each morning. Then came the late nights. She claimed the shop was busy, but her voice was forced, like she was acting. I'd catch her smiling at her phone, a secret, radiant smile I hadn't seen in ages. When I'd ask if she was texting, she'd flinch and lock her screen. "Oh, just a friend from the shop," she'd say, quickly changing the subject. I didn't want to doubt her. I had vowed to trust her. But the evasive glances and late nights piled up in my mind like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to see completed. One Tuesday morning, I had a rare day off. I lay in bed, pretending to be asleep as I watched Daisy get ready. She wore a tight, dark green dress and checked her phone with a focused expression before leaving. The silence after she left was heavy. I decided to clean the house to pass the time. As the midday sun poured through the window, I decided to change the bed sheets. I pulled the bed away from the wall to clean the dust underneath, and something small rolled out, clattering across the floor. I bent down to pick it up, and my heart stopped. It was a small, clear plastic bottle of lubricant, about half full. I recognized it as one we had bought together long ago. My mind reeled. We hadn't been intimate in over 3 months. 3 long months of her excuses. So what was this bottle doing here? I stood frozen, the bottle resting in my palm, cold as an accusation. I wanted to believe there was a logical explanation, but the truth was a bitter pill. I carefully placed the bottle back under the bed, exactly where it had been, and pulled the blanket down, covering the secret I just uncovered. That night, I lay in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. The bottle under the bed seemed to whisper to me. A quiet, sharp pain had started, a crack that I knew would keep spreading, consuming every ounce of trust one had left. After that day, I became a different person. I still went to work, still smiled, but a part of me was constantly observing, analyzing every move Daisy made. Her phone was always on silent now, always face down. Her excuses for going out became more frequent. One Friday evening, she was dressed to go out. "I need to swing by a friend's to return something," she said, her voice slightly rushed. I nodded, smiling as if nothing was amiss. "All right, drive safe," I replied. But in my mind, a decision had formed. Tonight, I would find the truth. When her car faded into the distance, I grabbed my keys. I followed her white sedan, keeping a safe distance. She drove out of the city center toward the suburbs and finally stopped in front of a small, run-down rental house at the end of a quiet street. I parked in a dark corner, hidden by shadows, my eyes glued to the house. A few minutes later, the front door opened. A man stepped out, tall with broad shoulders. Under the streetlight, I saw his face clearly. My heart stopped. It was Mason, my younger brother. His silver pickup truck was parked nearby, a cruel confirmation. Daisy got out of her car, and Mason placed his hand lightly on her back, guiding her inside. The door closed. I sat motionless in my truck, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Daisy, the wife I loved, and Mason, my own brother, the one I protected my whole life. I didn't know how long I sat there. Maybe half an hour. When the door opened again, Daisy stepped out, her hair disheveled. Mason stood at the door, seeing her off with the same charming smile he used to win over anyone. I drove home slowly, a cold, empty feeling flooding my chest. As the rain began to fall, my mind drifted back to my childhood. My father, Tom Ward, was a stern man who worked at a steel factory. "You're the older brother, Colton," he'd always say. "You have to be strong. Look out for your little brother." My mother, Helen, was gentle, but her gentleness was reserved for Mason. He was the golden child, born with a smile that could charm anyone. No matter what he did wrong, getting into fights, stealing money from her purse, she always found an excuse. "He's still young," she'd say. I grew up under my father's reminders and my mother's favoritism, always sacrificing. Now, knowing my wife was cheating with that same brother, a bitter smile crossed my face. I had lived my whole life trying to do the right thing, and I was repaid with betrayal. I knew then that what needed to end wasn't just my marriage. It was the cycle of silence and sacrifice I'd endured my whole life. In the days that followed, I went to work as if nothing had happened. But inside, I was a different person. I was a man with a plan. 8 years as a manager at Home Depot had taught me about more than just paint and plumbing. I knew every chemical, every solution, every industrial adhesive on the shelves. I knew which glue was clear, odorless, and could bond human skin in seconds, requiring a special solvent to separate. That kind of glue, if misused, could become a disaster. Not lethal, but enough to make someone pay a steep price. That afternoon, I stood in aisle 12. I picked up a tube of construction glue, the label clearly stating extremely strong bond, dries in 5 seconds. I purchased it as if it were just another ordinary item. Back home, I hid it in the garage. One morning, after Daisy left for her busy day, I walked into the bedroom. The bottle of lubricant was still in the nightstand drawer, now nearly empty. I took it to the kitchen, poured the remaining contents down the drain, and retrieved the tube of industrial glue. I carefully pumped the thick, clear, odorless liquid into the bottle, filling it halfway. I wiped the cap clean, screwed it on tightly, and placed the bottle back in the drawer, exactly where it had been. Everything was perfect. No trace. I won't hit, won't yell, won't cry, I whispered to myself. But they'll remember this night forever. Saturday evening arrived. The text from Daisy came as expected. "Shop's packed. I'll be home late." I knew where she really was. I grabbed my keys and drove to that quiet suburban street. Her car and Mason's silver pickup were parked out front, a familiar, painful sight. I parked in a shadowed corner and made a call. "Dad," I said, my voice eerily calm, "I need you and Mom to come to this address. I want you to see the son you've always doted on with your own eyes." 20 minutes later, their old car pulled up. "Why did you drag us out here, Colton?" Dad asked, irritated. "Just wait," I replied, my eyes fixed on the house. We stood in the darkness, the wind rustling through the trees. Then a scream rang out, Daisy's, panicked and laced with pain. It was followed by Mason's urgent, pleading voice. "What's happening?" my mother whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't answer. The truth was revealing itself. A second, louder scream made the neighbors' lights flick on. The sound of an ambulance siren echoed in the distance. The front door of the house burst open, and 2 paramedics rushed inside. Minutes later, they emerged, and I saw them, Daisy and Mason, stuck together, their faces contorted in pain and fear. The industrial glue had done its job. I stood there, watching as they were loaded into the ambulance, the flashing lights illuminating my parents' horrified faces. My mother collapsed, sobbing. "Mason, no, it can't be." My father turned to me, his eyes full of suspicion. "Colton, you knew about this, didn't you?" I just looked at him, silent. The ambulance drove away, carrying the 2 people who had betrayed me. I got into my car, leaving my parents standing there in the cold wind and flashing lights. At the hospital, the atmosphere was chaotic. My parents stood in the hallway, shaken. It took the doctors over an hour to separate Daisy and Mason, using a special solvent. When we were finally allowed into the room, Mason spoke first, his voice weak but defensive. "Colton, it's not what you think. This was just a misunderstanding." Daisy burst into tears. "Colton, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." My father suddenly roared. "Mason, what have you done? You dared to do this to your brother." My mother could only sob. I stood there, a silent observer to the chaos I had orchestrated. Then, the door opened, and 2 uniformed police officers walked in. "Mason Ward," the taller officer said, "you are under investigation for organized fraud and misappropriation of property. We have a warrant for your arrest." The room froze. "Fraud," my father choked out. The officer explained that Mason had deceived multiple women, extorting money before disappearing. Daisy looked at Mason, then down at the floor, a painful truth dawning on her. "You were going to do that to me too?" she whispered. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing. My father stood motionless, as if his strength had left him. The police handcuffed Mason. "Dad, Mom, Colton, please say something," he pleaded. But I just stood there, my gaze icy. He was no longer my brother. Daisy cried, but I felt no pity. She had chosen his lies. The police led Mason out. My mother lunged forward, begging them to let him go, but they gently pried her hand away. I walked out of that room and out of the hospital without looking back. News about Mason spread through Baton Rouge like wildfire. The Ward family, once seen as a model of decency, became the center of a humiliating scandal. My father could barely bring himself to leave the house. My mother, consumed by guilt, started seeing a therapist. "I was wrong, Colton," she told me over the phone, her voice choked with tears. I didn't stay to witness their collapse. A few days later, I filed for divorce. I packed my belongings, leaving my wedding ring on the kitchen table. Daisy's nail salon, once bustling, was now deserted. She was forced to close it. She tried to reach out, but I never opened the door. Before leaving Baton Rouge, I visited my parents one last time. "I'm sorry, Colton," my father said, his voice low and hoarse. "I wasn't fair to you. I see how wrong I was. I didn't hold a grudge. I was just tired. I don't blame you," I said, "but I need to start over." I left early one morning, driving toward Texas and a new job. I didn't look back. As I passed the leaving Baton Rouge sign, I felt a true sense of freedom. I had lost a wife, a brother, and the family I thought I knew. But in their place, I had found myself. The betrayal had forced me to see the truth, not just about them, but about the life I wanted to live, one of honesty, integrity, and self-respect. And for the first time, I was ready to walk my own path.